Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-filled discussion for Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. And at least I died an Avenger. Hey there, my name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-filled discussion for Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, games, toys, and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Now, again, as I mentioned, this episode contains Jonathan Major spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you might want to shrink down and avoid the quantum entanglement of this discussion, and then come right back and listen to us gab on about it. Listen, before we even get to the discussion, though, I do want to let you know, if you're like us and you love the world of Star Wars, we currently have our watch club for Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2 with weekly breakdowns every single Wednesday. And if you've been infected with a passion for all things The Last of Us, well, we also have a weekly watch club for that, which goes live on your podcast service of choice every single Sunday right after the episode wraps at 10 p.m. Eastern. So check those out and enjoy. But with that out of the way, let's get to it. Joining me for this second quantifiably quality quest into the queersome and quirky but quintessential quantum realm, he's got a jejunum made of jelly. He's Justin the Lysosome Lawrence. I went with lysosome this time.
Lysosome.
Yeah.
Do you know
what that is?
No.
It's okay. So apparently it's an organelle, which I don't know what that word is, within a cell that contains digestive enzymes to break down waste materials and foreign substances. So I think it's really important when it comes to pooping. I'm pretty sure that's it. So I thought it was perfect.
I like a good poop. I do like a good poop. What's the other one before? Jelly Janusa?
Oh, the jejunum. The jejunum.
Jejunum. Yeah, what is a jejunum?
A jejunum, I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
sounds like a sack.
It's the middle part of the small intestine, which, again, good for pooping.
So I am something that will help you digestively poop in the quantum realm. I like that. I like
you
that
got
idea.
Holes, they're made for
I got
pooping.
Holes in all the right places, let me tell you, bro.
Oh, man. Justin, we've now been to the quantum realm a couple times, and the movie's been out for about a week now.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought we'd jump on here and gab about things that we couldn't talk about until now, which is
exciting,
which is interesting. It's interesting that we had to wait so long to be able to get into this. But I think, you know what, I get it. We're respecting the idea of spoilers. What do you think is the opportune amount of time? I know there's like an unwritten rule out there on the internet somewhere.
There is.
Yeah,
there is. It's actually 10 days, if I'm not mistaken. I think a lot of outlets goes by the rule of about 10 days. I know
10 days.
that.
Okay.
This was actually our first time that we were given an embargo for spoilers, because if you've joined us in the past for our spoiler discussions on all things MCU, they tend to usually go up the day of when the movie goes out, because you know, hey, maybe you go see the movie the Thursday night or the Friday or over the weekend, and you want to hear us gab on and on. So this was different, but I don't know how other outlets handled it. New Rockstars, they've been posting a lot of spoiler stuff.
Right away.
Right away, but they also didn't. I don't think they were necessarily embargoed because they didn't do a review or anything along those lines. So they were doing that. But I do know that today, February 24th, they will be releasing more of a sort of traditional spoiler Easter egg breakdown from Eric Voss. So I'm thinking this will be something that'll start to become more normalized as we get through more of these screener opportunities, that we may be given a hard embargo date for spoilers. But stay tuned.
I'll be honest with you. I don't mind as much. I think the tricky part is we're a little ways out from maybe seeing it even for the second time. So it's one of those things where it's both easier to plan for, but then you got to really make sure you got it written down, or that those moments that you want to talk about are memorized.
Yeah, they're top of mind, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think, again, just to kind of give a little bit of a foreshadow, the structure of this episode's a little bit more about what we didn't get to talk about rather than revisiting everything.
Yes. If you want like our general sort of spoiler free on things like performances, our thoughts on the music in the movie, our thoughts on even the narrative structure, again, spoiler free, definitely check out the spoiler-free review. I think even after listening to this, there's still going to be a lot that you can get from that conversation. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. But Justin, before we get into the microscopic details, I want to ask you a couple dumb questions.
I love
just to kick it off here. If you could shrink like the ant fam in this movie, what's the first thing you would do if you could shrink down?
This was a hard one. I know you sent these in ahead of time. I was trying to think of what I would do. I'll tell you what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't shrink down and go into someone's asshole just to try to destroy them, like that ridiculous theory.
Did you know, Justin? It's called the Thanos theory, like
the
Thanos and anus. Thanos.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's the first thing I wouldn't do.
Okay, great.
I don't know. I think I'd try to probably immerse myself in things that I was probably scared of.
Oh, okay.
The way I think of it is Ant-Man 1. When he shrinks down and he starts interacting with all these bugs, he's a little bit overwhelmed, he's a little bit scared.
Right.
But he gets used to it, he gets comfortable, he gets normalized to it because he's small. I think if I was going to be doing this more frequently, that's something I would probably want to do. I'd want to, normalize myself to my surroundings and my environment. I know that might be a bit of a cop-out answer.
No, I like it. I like it. You hang out with the bugs?
I probably would. Yeah, I'd probably go hang out with some ants and, see what's up and, try to be vulnerable and, hopefully have a good sensibility to communicate with them properly.
See, my biggest fear with that, and this is such a speciesist elitist fear of being a human, and we run this planet because we're humans. PETA, don't come after me, but I feel like it would make it really difficult for me to harm any insect in the future. You know what I mean? I think now you crush a spider, you don't think twice about it, and you sort of just move on with your day, right? But I would, if I became friends with ants, I guess the only way I could get away with it would be like, okay, ants, like who are your enemies? Who should I be looking out for when I'm big and tall? And I can take care of them for you. But like ants, for the most part, like, dude, I don't know if I could smush an ant if I made friends with them.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think that's you'd have a new perspective.
Yeah,
if you're smaller.
There you in many ways.
Yeah.
For me, I think I would go swimming in a bowl of cereal, like in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Of course, it couldn't be a bowl of cereal that anyone's eating out of. But like instead of Cheerios, I think I would go with like Lucky Charms, something softer. Get on one of those marshmallows, probably the green clover because it's got the most surface area. That's probably what I would
use it as a
do.
bit of a donut, like to like float around.
Yeah, you just float around on it, and like you could eat it at the same time.
After you'd be like so like.
It would be
gross.
really
like
sticky.
You'd have to wash the shit out of that suit.
Oh man. Okay, so we know what we would do if we would shrink down. Now in this movie, there's a really great scene, really great gag where Hank Pym enlarges a really small pizza and turns it into a full-sized pie. If you had some Pym particles, what would you shrink down to keep in your pocket? What would you rock?
My house.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like that idea of like, oh, forgot something. just expanding it, making it big.
See,
of course, you would need
the land space. Yes, that would be tricky. And the other thing too, that I was thinking about because I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp not too long ago, and he does shrink the house and whatever. I was just thinking though, like plumbing, like he must have an inside plumbing situation. Like I don't know how that works. Does it work like a trailer park?
And the basement wouldn't, the basement's in the ground,
right?
So you're not shrinking the basement. You'd just be shrinking everything on top of it. But
right.
even in Ant-Man and the Wasp,
non-Quantumania,
not Quantumania in the second movie where they had their this big facility, like this big building that was like, in the basement was this underground facility. I'm like, how are you making that small too? Because theoretically that's
in the ground. Right? So then there should be a hole in the ground.
There should be a hole in the ground.
I don't know. I like the idea though. I went a little bit more smaller scale with my answer on this. And I know it sounds super lame, but dude, shrinking down my luggage when I'm traveling. First off, they charge way too much for carry-on and checked bags these days. Like insane amounts. Like to the point where I've had moments where I've spent less on actual plane tickets than on my carry-on. Like it's absolutely disgusting. So if I could just shrink down, those things, put them in my pocket, put them in a fanny pack or something, right? And then I wouldn't be doing this to get around security because like I that question comes up. Like
you're saving cost. Saving cost.
So you don't pay for it when you initially buy your tickets. You say no, I've got no carry-on.
Either.
Right. Nobody needs to know. They don't ask you at security. You go through security bag check with all the stuff that's safe and whatever. It's fine. And then before you get to your gate, you shrink it all down, pop it in your fanny pack.
Yep. I think that's a brilliant idea, especially for how many times people lose their luggage. I think PIM particles would probably get purchased a lot if it was about using it for your luggage so that you could travel light.
Well, even think about like Disney, dude. Idea. Like all the souvenirs and stuff I could buy.
Oh, dude. You could literally have like
a handful of suitcases.
You could still get suitcases like you do. Like you literally buy suitcases when you get there for just the shit that you purchase. And it's like you could do that, but now you can scale that down and store it in a fanny pack. I love that idea.
Huge.
You could have multiple.
Please make it a reality. Marvel, Disney.
PIM particles, they need to be a thing.
Find a way. That's what we should be focusing on. Not cures for diseases. PIM particles. All right. Well, now that our audiences and us, we've both drank the ooze. We can get all covered in spoilers. We can pour spoilers into all of our holes. I wanted to start off by talking about, I think this movie, a lot of folks have sort of said they weren't sure about the comedic aspects to this movie, being the third in the Ant-Man trilogy. I kind of wanted to start here with sort of favorite comedic moment, favorite funny moment. I think this movie is just as funny as the previous two. There's a lot of comedic moments between Scott, M.O.D.O.K, and of course my MVP of the movie, Veb. So Justin, kick us off here. What was your favorite comedic moment in the movie?
Well, I think you've mentioned where a lot of the comedy kind of lies. It's with Veb and M.O.D.O.K. And we'll talk a little bit more about M.O.D.O.K as we get through. But I think the introduction to Veb and the people of the quantum realm,
so good.
That introduction was really, really funny.
Yeah.
Because it definitely had like a bit more of like a intense, scary moment, but then it switched into this comedic beat, which was really, really funny, and I think well placed. And it worked really, really well in the movie at that point. And Veb was hilarious. I think you said it best in our spoiler free. If you want the best representation of what the quantum realm is, from its weird and its bizarre, it's in Veb. Veb is that. And I think also his fascination with Scott and his holes, and just understanding humans, and his ooze being this thing that allowed for others to understand their communication. It was really, really smart, all of that. But I think Veb would be it. And then also like the introduction of M.O.D.O.K. I think this is obviously a character that is seen as being a little bit more, what's the word you could use here?
Goofy?
Yeah, is a bit goofy. He's a bit goofy on paper, and I think that it's great to see Marvel incorporating him in a live action big budget movie, and I think he did play for the laughs. I think when we saw his face for the first time, we mentioned it in our spoiler free. We
laughed out loud.
Laughed out loud.
So many times you've typed lol. This is the first time I've felt it. Like it was, and we were the only ones that I felt in our screening were laughing at this moment.
And that's what we talked about after, right? Yeah. It's like, is that really meant to be the point, right? Like,
it was hilarious.
Were we supposed to laugh out loud like that? I kind of think
we dumb face.
It's just so stupid, right? So it's stupid. Like, it's hilarious. So, and the scenes that we had with Scott and M.O.D.O.K kind of feeding into like, oh, what happened to you? And like, look at your baby arms and your baby legs and like
your baby Bjorn.
Baby Bjorn, yeah. So I thought it all worked really, really well. And I think comedy still found a way to be a thing in an Ant-Man movie. of this scale, of this epic scope. You know what I mean? Like it didn't lose itself. So for those who are saying that, I just, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I know that a lot of people were missing Luis.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah, Luis, like they had opportunities, and Peyton Reed has recently come out in an interview as saying that it wouldn't have worked, and I have a really tough time believing that, because I think, you've got the idea of and I love the book ending of opening with Scott. You got Welcome Back Kotter theme coming in, and then ending with Scott and Welcome Back Kotter theme. And I totally understand that. But Justin, you were telling me off air, you were thinking of a great way to implement Luis would have just been to have him in the moments when we were seeing Scott sort of getting caught up, with the different characters, getting caught up with Jimmy Woo, having a lunch date with him and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that would have been a really great opportunity, and it would have been great for us to get a little bit of a catch up, right? Like, the classic Luis thing to do is, these rapid fire, retellings of events. So it would have been great to see what he was up to since, Ant-Man and the Wasp. What did he get snapped? What happened to him when he came back? And it would have been just great for him to insert that in.
And then I was in a bathroom, and this lady was like, "Whoa, what are you doing in the bathroom? Get out of the ladies' bathroom!" And I was like, "Whoa!" Like,
it wasn't a ladies' bathroom before, but now it's like 5 years have passed, and I don't know where the hell I am, and I'm just crazy.
Dude, it would have been.
How I like my rosé, bro. I think, like, again, like,
fantastic.
There would have just been an opportunity to fit him in at some point.
Yeah.
So it was more of a cameo, because he definitely was very important in the previous movies. So here it would have been just nice to give him like some sort of option to be there. Like, they found a way to get David Dastmalchian into this movie.
Yeah, as Veb.
Yeah, as Veb, as another character. Maybe that's another route that they could have gone, like another quantum realm character.
A quantum realm version of Luis.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Right? So
he's explaining everything that happened with Janet in the last 30 years. Like, I could have. Yeah.
He's like, "Don't worry, bro. I got this. I will take care of
like, Luis." And he's like, "I don't know who you're talking about, bro." No, I think you know what? Very much missed. I would really hope that that is not the end of that character. I'd love to see him come back. I would even love to see. We've talked about the ideas in the past of sort of a pet Avengers, right? With all the different animals that we've seen recently in the MCU. Like, I still think it would be really fantastic to sort of get a side character MCU sort of mashup, right? Like, we get Katie from Shang-Chi, right? We get Luis. Like, I think it would be really fun to sort of get some of these characters.
Jimmy Woo is their kind of like
Woo
leader.
is kind of their lead. Yeah, dude.
He's got them like on some sort of underground. He's like, "You've all been around enhanced beings before,
right?
So we have a mission for you."
Oh,
I think it would have been really funny.
Phenomenal.
And it definitely could play to a very niche audience that appreciates these characters.
Just
right?
do a short series on Disney Plus. It would, easy win. But continuing with the Quantumania of it all, I think I'm right there with you when it comes to the Veb. Like, I think the moment that really got me with Veb, especially just the fact that he, going off about the holes. I love Paul Rudd's reaction when you literally just see him thinking like, "Yep, that's how many holes I have. Yeah, 7 holes. Yeah." And he does such a good job with that, because we're all thinking that in that moment. And even with Quaz, I love the little sort of back and forth of like, "Stop thinking about that," and his head glows. And
every time it was kind of like a sort of comedic beat that allowed you to kind of like chuckle and laugh in those moments to understand what was signifying that. So I thought that was great too.
It was fantastic. As a fan of The Good Place, it was great to see William Jackson Harper in the short moments that we had of him, but I think he was really fun here. But I think the funniest moment for me was with Veb. The moment he gets his holes, he turns into a freaking Kirby, and I love it. I love the way that the movie. It's really fun because it's a moment that sort of rips your heart out, because you love this character by this point. But you see Veb getting shot up, and then immediately the movie fills that hole in your heart with an empowering moment for this character getting holes. And I love the turn. Like, I had no idea he could do that. And just this really, really fun, happy moment. So I think for me, that might have been the moment that I was sort of like laughing out loud the most, just from the sheer sort of shock of, oh my gosh, are they actually going to kill Veb, to instant laughs of just, this is amazing.
I think you're probably one of the few, maybe, again, that really, really appreciated Veb's character and understood the sort of
justice for Veb.
Yeah, the impact that he had, especially the way he just talked about, like, they rip it from your heart with his potential death. Like, I don't know if anyone was talking about Veb in that way. But I think but like, again, he was so charming. And I think that, as you mentioned, very much what the quantum realm is represented in his character and the weirdness and the sort of the personality. So I think that, again, he had a lot of heart.
Absolutely. And I think, speaking of heart, I think Cassie had a lot of really great comedic opportunities. There's one moment, though, with Cassie, and she doesn't even say anything, that sticks out in my mind, and I literally just chuckle at it every time I think about it. Phenomenal delivery from Catherine Newton, where Scott sees that she has a suit, and then she's like, yeah, I have a suit. And then she does this little, like, sort of like curtsy, this little tiny curtsy thing. It's so subtle, just this kind of, and I'm like, that is Scott Lang's daughter. Like, that's exactly what Scott would do in that situation. I just thought it was so lovely, so charming. But listen, this movie is not just a comedy, as we've been saying, like, this entire time. Peyton Reed, I think, did a great job of sort of blending comedy and the more serious tones. So Justin, let's talk about maybe the overall number one. What is the scene that you want to shout out as one that still sticks with you after this movie?
Well, I think it's the scene that best captures the heart and the family aspect of Ant-Man, and that is Scott's journey into the probability storm. When he ends up there and we see all these different Scott Langs, it becomes very overwhelming and he becomes flustered, almost like a bunch of ants sort of lost, with no central signal. And what's great is, as this frenzy starts to happen, you hear Cassie come through on the mic and, say, like, I love you, Dad. Just come back to me, Dad. Just come back to me. And that's what brings all the Scotts' focus together. And that's actually more of a callback, I think, to the first Ant-Man movie, where Hope is giving Scott advice in the car, how to use the signal, how to speak to the ants, and to think of Cassie's love. And I think that that's so great that we get to see it sort of take form here. So it was a great sort of connection back to the first one, while also really cementing what motivates, what drives Scott in this moment and in everything that he does, and that's the love for his daughter, which is why he was able to achieve that. But then you also then have the moment where they think they're going to get it and they fail, but then Wasp comes in. The idea that the friendship and the bond that the two have formed, she's always there to catch him, right? So I just thought this whole moment, this whole sequence in the middle here where they go into the probability storm really very much captures and encapsulates everything we know and love about the Ant-Man franchise. And I remember looking over to you and just being like, oh, that's just that was super cute. Like, it was just a really endearing moment. And I don't know, it worked. It really worked for me. I get that maybe people might connect with that and see some of the emotion and maybe want a little bit more of that throughout the rest of the movie. But for me, like, in this moment is everything we know and love of Ant-Man.
I think, you know what, it's interesting that you say that. That is my top moment as well, is the probability storm scene. I think, seeing Scott drowned by the possible outcomes of himself is a really interesting message. He kind of gets in his own way a lot of the times. And so to have him focus on Cassie, the one thing that all the Scotts unquestionably agree on is how much they love her, and that they do anything for her. And I love, again, you shouted it out. They are acting like ants. It's interesting. I looked it up. Ant bridging apparently is an actual thing that ants do. So that's most likely where they sort of got this idea of these ants using their collective bodies to traverse this situation. And yeah, man, I think it was so dope. You can't help but smile in that moment. Like, I went to see it with a group of friends, for the second time that I went and saw it. And I literally I watched the scene, but then I kept looking over at them, and all of them had massive smiles on their face the moment he starts climbing up. I love the Baskin Robbins Scott is so positive the entire time, is so good. It's such a wonderful moment, and it's a heist. I think, you mentioning it being a callback and a reference to sort of the idea of this entire trilogy. I think that the entire trilogy thematically is summed up in that one scene, and it's really, really beautiful.
And him also having like a very special skill set,
yes,
that needs to be utilized in a way to pull off this heist.
Yep,
right.
And
like
the way
that
she
been that character,
and the way that she comes in, Hope comes in and is so capable. Right. Again, it's literally all these sort of aspects about these characters that are brought in. I think the only other one then, if because we have the same one, I would go with that I really would want to shout out would be the giant man, the almost Attack on Titan kind of moment of him coming through the smoke, and you just see M.O.D.O.K and Corey Stoll just turn to him and just be like, whoa, that's big. like I just love how, again, we get that sort of callback to the second movie, but he is massive. It's like a kaiju moment, right? He's busting up things. He's breaking things. And to see him, and then to see Cassie just quickly sort of match that and run into this situation, I think also sort of speaks to her character quite a bit, in the sense of that she is a go-getter. She is very much like she needs to help her dad in that moment. And so just like the previous scene that we just talked about of doing anything to get to her and to help her, she's doing the same thing. She's literally like getting to a place that's taken him so long to get to from a power set standpoint, which again, a lot of people could look at and criticize, of just sort of saying like, oh, like how does she already know how to get that big? How does she sustain that sort of thing? But I think story-wise, I think narratively wise, it's really poetic. I think it's really beautiful, and I think it's the idea that
she's trying to keep up.
She can do anything in order to save her dad, and
exactly,
really beautiful,
and
really,
to be a
really
hero.
Lovely. Yeah,
to be her hero, right? Because like again, I think her story arc through this is about becoming the hero that she knows that she can be, and making a difference that she knows she knows inside of herself that she can make.
Yeah.
So I think that it's when we deviate from the story and we start to see her kind of running her own mission and not really knowing what the hell's going on, like it does feel very reminiscent of Scott in the first Ant-Man movie, right? Kind of figuring it out as they go about it, and that's kind of the nature of the hero origin story, if you will.
Well, we've talked an awful lot about the heroes of the movie, and we just mentioned Cassie's sort of side story in the third act of this movie. Let's talk about what's not standing in her way, but floating in her way, if you will. Let's talk more about M.O.D.O.K. Again, we audibly laughed out loud seeing the reveal of his face. I think the other big laugh out loud, and this was with the entire audience this time, was seeing his naked wet ass just tiny little cheeks. I thought he was great in the movie. I think Corey Stoll had so much fun playing as this character. It does, however, I did want to bring up the death of M.O.D.O.K. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And I think it's interesting because it raises a problem that I feel a lot of folks have with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in contrast to something like the comics universe, where I know the comics are a little more forgiving with the idea of killing a villain, or the idea of using the multiverse to bring villains back. Whereas with the MCU, I feel like a lot of folks sort of feel like with characters like Gore, the God Butcher, or Hela, Mysterio, Ultron, a lot of these characters are kind of, they're just
adapted.
Used. They're just one shot, one movie, and then they're gone. And they're such phenomenal characters, where in the movies we get situations where we get to see like, oh my gosh, I can't believe so-and-so's back on the hero side. But we really haven't gotten that from a villain standpoint of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they brought this villain back all the way from Thor 2 or Thor, not Thor 2. I wouldn't want Malachi or whatever that guy's name is. Thor 3, Thor Ragnarok. But I'm just saying, like, Do you think that there is an MCU problem, and do you think killing off M.O.D.O.K here was the right choice?
I don't know. Like, I think there's a point to be said here about a version of M.O.D.O.K was killed.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And maybe that plays into what you're talking about with the multiverse and things kind of fixing it. But I think that probably is my only problem, is like I don't think they should have killed him. In all honesty, I don't, as much as I loved him and I loved what they did with the character, he does feel kind of shoehorned into this movie. He does feel kind of like in here as like an additional.
He's the Riri
baddie.
Williams.
Yeah,
America
sort of,
Chavez.
Yeah, more of the America Chavez,
Okay.
right? Like just kind of thing. And then, the fact that they killed him, it's unfortunate. But that said, the fact that they were able to find a way to bring M.O.D.O.K into this, and it makes sense in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it makes total sense. But this is where I think the divisiveness amongst other things like the visual effects really comes from it with how people are reacting to this movie, is how things like M.O.D.O.K are handled and how M.O.D.O.K looks, right? Like, I don't know how else you're going to do M.O.D.O.K unless he just stays in his little robot face the entire time, but then that's just a bit of a cop-out, right? So I think that the way they did it made sense. It also draws out the ridiculousness of it.
Yep. Fits within the
kind of
quantum realm.
It entirely fits in the quantum realm.
We got a broccoli guy.
We see, yeah, exactly. We got a broccoli guy, but we also got we saw the visual of what was happening to Darren as he went into it, and how they found him, and again, I think another thing a lot of people might have a problem with is that adaptation, is taking Darren Cross and now adapting him to be M.O.D.O.K. Smart from the perspective of the writing to draw a connection back to the first villain, right? To really tie the first movie in with this third movie. But that said, I don't think it worked for fans. I think that in many cases, because he was taken a little too jokey and killed off, I don't think people really appreciated it, and I think others just didn't like the visual effect, and it kind of took them out. But again, it is what it is. He was crushed and banished to the quantum realm, and Kang found him, and he was just a floating head with baby limbed arms.
Baby
and
arms.
Becomes a killing machine. Yeah, it's just it's nuts to think, like, again, you wouldn't be able to do that without the quantum realm. Right? Like that, it doesn't make any sense really in the MCU outside of the quantum realm, right? So I don't know. I'm kind of like mixed on it. Like I liked how they handled it. I'm not crazy about the fact that they killed him, but at the same time, they didn't need to shoehorn him in. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If that makes sense.
It's interesting because I saw a take online. I can't remember who posted it, but they said they would have liked M.O.D.O.K to just be the villain in the movie. And not have as much of an emphasis on Kang. And I it's an interesting take. I don't know how, like, you also have to think of this from a marketing standpoint, and it's like, does that get butts in seats? I'm not sure. Marvel,
Jonathan Majors
coming off
Kang.
of Phase 4, right? Exactly. Yes. They need Kang the Conqueror is here.
Exactly. Yes, Kang put some asses in the seats for sure, and I think I've read the same take, and I don't know. I think, like, again, if you remove Kang or just Jonathan Majors' performance from this movie, I don't know if it wouldn't have done as well, right? And if M.O.D.O.K was the only bad guy who was leading this army, and at the end it was revealed that he was leading this army for Kang,
right?
He was doing this for Kang. I don't know. I just don't know if that would have worked. So again, it's kind of like, why not just have him out of it, and maybe he got away. Like, I would rather have that he got away rather than that he died, right?
But he died an Avenger, and I think that was such a phenomenal moment when he's like, "You're like a brother to me," and he's like, "I am,
I am,
I am, yes."
Yeah, because he's like grazing his face.
Yeah,
he's like
with his little baby
hands,
hand,
and he's like, I am,
yeah. And he's like, "But I am a dick." Like, he just notices. He's again, really, really fun stuff from Corey Stoll, hamming it up in that role. But I do think Jonathan Majors as Kang is one of the biggest reasons that people went to see this movie, just to see. Well,
he was in all the marketing.
Yeah, and what is this?
He was in all the marketing.
What does this mean? This movie, yes, it's the third in a trilogy, but like in the spoiler free that I talked about, it very much is an origin story in a lot of ways. And so as an origin story for Kang, I have sort of mixed feelings going back, seeing it a second time, of just sort of, should it fully have been an origin story for Kang?
Nope.
Is there a way that we could have done it a little bit differently? But I mean, he was outstanding. He was phenomenal. Shakespearean performances from Kang. He was a lot more collected than I even anticipated. I thought he was very he wasn't as sort of chaotic as I expected. But what did you kind of think of? Yeah, so in terms of Kang, obviously we're gonna talk about kind of the end result with him. Did you enjoy that sort of final battle with him? How do you think he was portrayed there? And then even in the final fight, let's kind of dig into that.
I think Jonathan Majors, as you were saying, throughout, outstanding.
Of course,
he elevates this movie to a whole new level. His performance was haunting, was terrifying. He, again, as all the tweets were saying, he is Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
But he definitely has a presence that affirms that he is a villain to be reckoned with. And there's a confidence in his performance. There's an arrogance. There's also a calculated, manic attention to detail that he seems to have, and an obsession. But I'm liking that we have bits and pieces of his origin. We don't have it all. We don't have it all, right? I think that, we have phase 5 and 6, probably more about Kang's dynasty, is where we're going to see what really happened. But, the good folks over at New Rockstars, they do some fantastic work. That Eric Voss, he does some fantastic work.
Yeah.
And, he's been talking about some stuff in a live stream that I was fortunate enough to kind of like just watch and listen. And he was talking about the fact that there's holes in the origin story, and I think that those holes will be filled in, especially given the first. Yeah, exactly. as we've discussed.
Yeah.
But given the fact that we see this mid-credit scene with some variants, that kind of leads us to understand a little bit more of that. And they had a really great theory. If He Who Remains from Loki was the one who ended the multiversal war with the Kangs, then Kang the Conqueror is the one that started it. So we've now seen the opposing ends of this multiversal war.
Interesting.
And now that things have unhinged themselves from Loki, we now have the Kang the Conqueror making an appearance. Now, I don't think he's dead. And I think that there's a safe bet to say that whatever happened in that moment when he I guess he was like sort of shrunken down inside of his multiversal orb.
It was very similar to what happened to M.O.D.O.K, right? What happened to Corey Stoll's
very much. But I think the multiversal orb was sort also part of that thing that he got sucked into.
Yeah,
it was in that machine and he gets sucked into it. So who knows? He might just be floating through multiversal space right now.
Yeah. And,
doing something, and he's going to come back with a vengeance, with an absolute vengeance. So, but I also really appreciated, we mentioned it in our spoiler free, the hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
We saw moments of Kang with his powers, which albeit look like pruning, just going to say that.
Oh, yeah.
They were definitely pruning beams from his hands.
Yeah.
Because people were just being pruned left, right, and center. And that's kind of what he's doing. And, if he is the chaos, again, like I mentioned, He Who Remains is sort of the calm.
Sure.
He keeps things organized, right? And hence the TVA and what he did with that to kind of help solidify a sort of organization that's dedicated to the preservation of the multiverse and of time. So, you have these two opposing ends of Kangs that we've met now, and here in this one, to see the sort of rage-fueled villainy that kind of exists in small amounts. I get it; it's definitely in small amounts, but I'm glad that they didn't give it to us all up front. I'm happy that there's still some room here for us to expand a little bit more, because I personally don't think he's dead. I don't. I think he's stuck somewhere else. He's now banished to something else. Scott did something with that whole, with the PEM particles and sent him to somewhere else. So I just, it'll be interesting to see how he comes back. Like, one theory that they were floating around on New Rockstars is maybe he comes back as the Beyonder. Like maybe they retcon the Beyonder and it now becomes a Kang variant that yields the Secret Wars. The Beyonder is the one that very much brings about the Secret Wars, where multiversal incursions, they'll fight, if you will, against one another. So that's where you see your heroes fighting other heroes.
Interesting.
So maybe
even seeing with M.O.D.O.K, they're not afraid to do that sort of thing.
Exactly.
I think he was. It's interesting because a buddy of mine, after we saw the movie, sort of came out of the movie and was a little tepid with his thoughts on how they handled Kang and how they sort of he was kind of like, wow, I mean, Ant-Man is the one that defeated Kang the Conqueror, and I just had to
didn't defeat him.
Well, this is it. I just had to keep reminding him of he's not defeated, and I think the idea that he's in the probability storm, he's so smart. I think the idea is that him working with his probable selves, right? I mean, obviously, him working with other Kangs didn't work out. That's why he was banished. But this isn't just other Kangs. This is other probable versions of him. So I think not only does he find a way out, I think he fixes the multiversal engine core, but he's out for vengeance, right? And so where before he was very much like, Janet, I'm not going to even touch your timeline if you let me go. Like, you will never even hear of me again. But the fact that she was the cause and the Ant fam was the cause for him having to go through all this, I think that fuels him to then, want to exact his revenge on this timeline. I think he becomes more capable down there, but at the same time, he becomes more unhinged. And so I kind of expect that maybe, it's almost like they ended up causing sort of the reason that he wants to attack them, and come after that timeline. Like, this is, again, as an origin story, this is the sort of the cause for him to say, well, I wasn't going to go after your timeline, but now I'm literally going to burn every single one of you.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's very much captured in the final moments of the movie as we start the way we began.
Yes.
Welcome Back plays, Scott's walking through the streets of San Francisco.
Sees a dog in a baby carrier. Yeah.
Which, again, like, it's almost as if something has changed.
Yes.
Right?
There was,
there's
why was the coffee so expensive?
Right. And like, why? What was with the cake? Why did it taste so bad?
Yeah.
You see the cake is green, like very much like a tealy green, very similar to that of Kang.
Oh.
The balloons are purple, and then just the sort of haunting terror that exists in Scott in his mind, just like it did in that probability storm. Yeah. Where he's having alternate thoughts of like, well, did I just mess something up?
Mm-hmm.
Are we all going to die? Is something going to happen? And I think that to the point that you're making, I think that's very telling to them being the reason why things are going to get pretty crazy for them as they go further into phase 5.
Yeah, I half expected them to just do a Loki season 1 finale again and have him look up to where I don't know, what are they, in San Francisco? So look up to where the bridge should be, but then there's just a statue of Kang in the water. Like something like that, right? Like, I thought that was, it's like, holy shit, just, Planet of the Apes situation again, right?
Yeah.
But let's get to the after that scene, let's get to the end credits. Or I guess mid-credits scene opens up to the Council of Kangs, a meeting place for all the Kang variants across the multiverse. The scene centers on a unique trio of Kangs, all played by Jonathan Majors, as they reflect on the news that the, quote, exiled one has been killed by 2 Avengers. So in this, we get Immortus. He's the one that's like, I'm Kang, and he talks like that. And he's an older, more powerful version of Kang from the far future, who, in the comic books, wishes to eliminate all the inferior Kang variants. There's Rama Tut, the Egyptian pharaoh version of Kang. And then there's a third version of Kang, sort of younger looking, more of a, like a futuristic blue outfit.
Yeah, this might be the Kang that is the father of Iron Lad.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, in the comics, Iron Lad is obviously a young Avenger that is of the lineage of Kang, and he was being trained by another Kang variant to be a villain, but he chose his own path. So there's been some theories that this third variant that we see, because it's pretty clear, like you said, M.O.D.O.K, they're having some liberties there, but he's definitely the first, probably one of the first, as well as Ramatut, being another one of those original Kangs. And those are both characters, if I'm not mistaken, that were sort of retcon into Kang.
Yes.
Maybe just M.O.D.O.K, actually. I think M.O.D.O.K was actually the only one that was kind of retcon into Kang. So, they don't have a definitive name for the third sort of cyborg. He kind of reminded me of Cyborg from the Justice League.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? So, because he's got that look. But each performance that Jonathan Majors portrays is different from one another. And it's interesting, too, the scars. The scars on the face, right? Like, what does that really insinuate? Because I think Ramatut had them. I don't think M.O.D.O.K had them.
No.
Can't remember. And we know the cyborg version of Kang did not have them.
Now, I'm wishing
a couple through the crowd.
I'm wishing we had Darcy on to kind of clear something up for me, because I was also seeing some information that this could be the Scarlet Centurion, which is that the same person as Iron Lad? Is that a different person?
It's a medieval.
Different Kang?
It's a medieval version of Kang.
Okay.
It's sort of like has this sort of armory. A lot of people were saying the same thing online, but they said that the distinction is the red armor. Now, someone a New Rockstars, Eric Voss, pointed out that in that crowd of people,
right,
in one of the shots, you do see someone in very like sort of medieval armor, which could be that version that you're speaking of, the Scarlet Centurion. But there's also someone with a red outfit that's sort of in the background. That's also could be the Scarlet Centurion. I think that, again, it's ambiguous for a reason, right? I think we're gonna get more of this dynasty and the history of it.
Oh, of course,
which I look forward to. Yeah, like in its own movie. I think it's gonna be great.
There's talking about some of the different Kang variants. One that was sort of mentioned as well is Kang, Q. Is it Qeng or Kang?
Yeah.
Of course, in Loki, we did see Kang Tower. And it was apparently it's a business version, a suited up version of Kang.
You see him in the background there,
right?
Yeah.
So that could be really intriguing. I also, and this is interesting, I tried looking it up. I couldn't find anything. In the original comic book, there's sort of like a monstrous looking version of Kang, but I just got complete Skrull vibes from the Kang that you see on the far right side, right near as soon as it, like once the screen goes black. And
it has the
he's got like the green look to it. Yeah. The nose looks very so. With Secret Invasion coming up, do we this might be kind of reaching for the stars here, but do we see a Kang Skrull variant in that series? Maybe not. I don't know.
I'm thinking more likely on the not, but I agree with you. I think that what's interesting is that there's not just different iterations of Kang, there's different species of Kang.
Exactly.
Which is more of the interesting, because I don't know if that's a Skrull, because I know there's a comic panel, if I'm not mistaken, from 1984, maybe 86, I can't remember, that very much depicts the exact moment that we see in this mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
That creature can be seen in the panel as well as in this moment. So I think it's more just kind of speaking to, the adaptation accuracy of that moment. But
there's like a dog version of Kang at one point. Like there,
no.
Yeah, dude. I'm looking up pictures from that exact comic that you're referring to, and there's one that I don't know if it's just a helmet, but it pretty much looks like a dog. I don't know. Maybe they won't go that far, or maybe they will. I don't know. We got to talk.
Maybe they will. Like tree. Honestly, anything is possible. But like even in the panel, there's like this creature that has like this weird nose. It's not, blue faced with the shield guard, but has blue scars on their face, right? And I think the scars are gonna matter. They're gonna be integral.
There's another version of Kang with like 6 eyes. There's another one with one eye.
It looks like a celestial version.
I'm telling you, man.
Kang.
So it's going to be interesting to see how far they take it and how many Kangs we actually get.
And I'm wondering though if like what we're seeing though is things that we've got, like, again, I think that what the MCU is going to do really well with Kang is they're already starting to do it with seed planting. But remember in Loki season 1 at the end in the Citadel, when he walks in and we see the timekeepers, right? And there is a statue that is destroyed. Is that Kang's statue? Is the representation of the other 3 the 3 that we met in the end of this?
Right. So is that the Conqueror that was broken?
Exactly. The Conqueror that was destroyed, while the other 3 represent Cyborg, Cyborg, Kang,
Iron Lad,
M.O.D.O.K,
Kang,
and Ramatat. Yeah,
and
exactly.
Ramatat.
Yeah. So and that's what's really interesting, and the fact that, like I was saying before, like He Who Remains deems himself as the person that ended the multiversal war, right? And I think, as we know, Kang the Conqueror is the one that started it, right? So now that everything's out of whack, how does this affect things? And is that why we may get the affirmative answer that a Kang variant bought the Avengers Tower in the MCU proper? And that's how we're going to start to see a version of Kang kind of trickle through. Because there's a lot of rumors that Spider-Man's going to be pretty integral to Kang's dynasty as part of the team, if you will. And if there is a Spider-Man movie that is in the works, is this where we get introduced to who bought his mentor's, building, if you will?
Interesting. Well, let's kind of dive into what's next. It'll kind of be the last section of this conversation here. And, we get the post-credit scene opens with Victor Timely, another known Kang variant, standing on stage, giving a speech in the early 1900s. He says, "Time is everything." And he's kind of got like this wonderful mustache, but it's still Jonathan Majors, wearing some glasses and a 3-piece suit. He says, "It shapes our lives, but perhaps we can shape it." And then the camera pans to the crowd, and we see that Loki and Mobius are in the audience, probably tracking variants of He Who Remains since the events of Loki season 1. So Victor Timely, I could see this being maybe the first Kang variant, and obviously we'll explore more in Loki season 2. But what do you think is happening next in the Kang storyline?
Well, I think Loki is going to talk about, obviously, the Kang variants, but maybe with Victor Timely, it's specific to the TVA.
Okay.
Right? Maybe that's how they adopt some of their technology. Maybe he's sort of the gatekeeper and origin of some of that tech. That
so do you think this
find its way?
Do you think Victor Timely? Sorry. So do you think Victor Timely is He Who Remains? Like, is that kind of where you're looking at here, and he doesn't know them at this point? Well, no, because then the other aspect to it too is like He Who Remains doesn't live in time. I don't know if any of the Kangs necessarily have that sense of like before and after. They're seeing sort of all times at all times.
Not to say that for sure, but I don't think that He Who Remains made the technology. I think he's just appropriating the technology that his other Kang variants have made. Right? I think with whatever we unravel around the Kang variants, we'll tie back to the TVA. We'll tie back to the history of the TVA, because the most intriguing part of Loki, apart from He Who Remains, is the TVA and what it means and how it situates itself as this multiversal police force, right? And there was that mystery has never been resolved, right? Like has never been concluded. We just found out who was pulling the strings on the other side. So, again, I think that with the introduction, with this like little snippet of Victor Timely, I'm hoping that we'll see a little bit more, and it might be cameo to cameo from episode to episode. I can't see him being an integral character, right? But at the same time, we don't know enough yet to guess. Like, there's rumors that we'll probably get a trailer sooner rather than later. For Loki, like a proper trailer.
I mean, there've been leaks online. Right, there was a leak online of them in suits in this
and in this
moment
era, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And I think
so this
at
looks,
the theater and stuff like that.
So this seemed like it could have been very much just a scene out of Loki that we might even see again come season 2.
We will 100% see it. Yes.
I think they're going to traverse not just the multiverse, but through time as well. And I think the MCU has an opportunity with Loki season 2 to really help nail down some of these rules. Because I will be honest with you, as a non-comic book reader, not that I don't read the comic books, I just haven't read them and I should read them more.
Yeah.
But as somebody who's mostly watching the MCU or the Marvel through the MCU, those rules still don't feel fully established for me. And I don't want to go on a big rant as to how to explain the differences between, the multiverse, time travel. What does that look like? And so I think they have a real opportunity to help sort of solidify that a little bit more with season 2. But I think the idea that they try to go back to the original Kang to assassinate him, right? And I think that would be a really intriguing idea of, how do they struggle with the idea of killing this person who maybe actually is a really fantastic, wonderful human being, Victor Timely. And now they have to sort of, struggle and wrestle with the idea that, but no, he's still going to result in Kang and in He Who Remains. And so I'm almost wondering if they end up causing the events that lead to Kang the Conqueror specifically. And I think that would be really, really fun. Like you were saying, if He Who Remains is sort of the end of the multiversal war, and Kang the Conqueror is kind of the beginning. What if we're going even further before that to then see how did he get to where he is in the quantum realm? I think would be really, really fun.
Well, I like the idea too. Like, we don't know who the original Kang or Nathaniel Richards is. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not. I don't know if we'll get that. Maybe we will eventually get that. But I also really like what you pointed out there. Like, even Mobius says, well, he doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe that is one of those situations where Victor Timely is a Kang variant, not knowing that he's a Kang variant. And, he's doing his part, but he doesn't know that he's doing his part for bad. Right? Like, he doesn't know that he is the bad guy.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, kind of like as we were talking about with, things like in The Last of Us, or even in Andor as the best example, right? Good people doing bad things and bad people doing good things, thinking that they're doing good for the bad. So, again, I think that we could see that. There's so many variants of Kang. Who's to say that there's one variant there that just isn't part of the whole thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, you would think that it's like if you're a Kang that lives in a specific multiversal timeline, then what, you're on the in? It's like someone comes and says, "Hey, there's more of you everywhere."
Yeah,
all at once.
You get a Nick Fury Kang with an eye patch.
Yeah, exactly.
He comes in.
Exactly.
There was an idea.
I want to talk to you about joining the Kang Council initiative.
Justin, if there's a Kang Vengers that shows up, holy crap, that would be incredible.
Well, that's what Kang Dynasty is going to be, right? Like, I think it's going to be more or less the origin story, and I see it mirroring that of Infinity War. Like, we talked about this even in the spoiler free. We got sprinkles of Thanos throughout phases 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Leading to Infinity War, where he had his own story and we understood his motives. And again, as comic book fans and people who knew it, they knew the story of what Thanos was going to do, but they made it matter in that movie. And I think that's what Kang's Dynasty is going to do. It is going to solidify the villain's motives and intent, and throughout the rest of the movies leading up to Kang's Dynasty, we'll see sprinkle. And like you mentioned, with Secret Invasion around the corner, and it is a series, I don't think all series and movies are really going to be important to the Kang story. They all matter in terms of canon, of course, but that's its own separate conversation than Kang, I think.
And I'm sure we will continue to have that conversation and continue to have all the conversations with the various watch clubs that we'll be doing.
Well, it seems like, as just a final note, looks like things are changing gears over at Marvel Studios with their release strategy. They haven't formally said this, but there's been a lot of behind the scenes confirmation that we'll only probably get 2 series on Disney Plus this year, which will be Secret Invasion and Loki season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of movies, they've shifted the release strategy, and it looks like the Marvels will be coming out in November and no longer in July. But Guardians is still the next movie that we'll get.
That's correct. Yeah, and I will say Guardians looks phenomenal. I'm excited to see what happens with the Marvels and with Secret Invasion, but I think Loki season 2, especially after what we just saw.
Oh man.
I think that's
it's going to matter the most.
It's the one that I'm most excited for, at least for this year from Marvel in particular. But that is it. We hope you enjoyed this small but mighty spoiler-filled discussion for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this movie, any of the spoilers that we talked about, are you like, yo, you guys are crazy, this movie was awful, or maybe you think the movie was phenomenal, or maybe you didn't want M.O.D.O.K to be in it, or whatever, let us know. I'm gonna call every single variant of Justin to meet with the Council of Justins so that they can let you know how you can reach us.
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
I thought you were going to be like, well, they have touched.
Well, they can reach us.
Email.
Yes.
But keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies, TV shows, and games, including our spoiler-free review for the Apple TV original series, Hello Tomorrow. And if you enjoyed this discussion on the MCU, we also have an episode we put out a couple of weeks ago, which you might enjoy. We took a look back at the MCU leading into Phase 5, so you can check out our MCU Look Back episode to hear our thoughts on the best and worst of the MCU so far, as well as what we hope for Phase 5. And I'll be the first to admit that our predictions got a little bit wild, a little crazy, mine in particular. Plus, we also have some interviews with the cast and crew of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Justin sat down with Catherine Newton, who plays Cassie Lang in the film, and I had a lovely chat with Peyton Reed, the director of the Ant-Man trilogy. Those interviews are already out, either here on podcast services, if you want to sort of hear a little bit more about them, and Justin's experience at the red carpet in Toronto, or on our YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric, and we're on TikTok at We Are Geekcentric, so you can check out all of those wonderful TikToks and our reels on Instagram, again, at We Are Geekcentric. And lastly, listen, if you believe that this is the way, well, we've got our Mandalorian Season 3 coverage coming real soon, as that series is dropping, I think within the next week or so. So I really look forward to that. Look forward to yet another watch club. We're going to have weekly breakdowns for that series. Timing might be a little bit tricky with some stuff going on with Star Wars Celebration, so we'll keep you in the loop and we'll figure it out. But listen, this is the way. And we might just have an interview with a certain director from that series as well on its way. So again, subscribe here, click all the things, click all the bells, follow us on our socials. Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this timely, spoiler-filled discussion. And as we say, love ya.
Peace.